The aroma of fresh espresso filled my tiny apartment as I scanned the morning headlines on my laptop. There it was, right on the business page. ISABELLA'S CAFÉS continues aggressive expansion. 30 new locations planned. My sister's smiling face beamed from the article photo, every pixel radiating smug satisfaction. The coffee in my cup suddenly tasted bitter. 1 year ago, that had been my coffee shop. Little Bird Coffee House, the tiny cafe I'd built from nothing. Now it was the flagship store of my sister Emma's rapidly expanding chain, rebranded with pretentious gold signage and overpriced pastries. My phone buzzed, speaking of the devil. "Sarah, darling." Emma's voice dripped honey-coated venom. "Did you see the news? We're bringing sophisticated coffee culture to the masses. Such a shame you never had the vision to see Little Bird's true potential." I bit back a sharp response. "What do you want, Emma?" "Just checking if you'll be at Mom and Dad's anniversary dinner tonight. Though I understand if you can't afford the dress code at Le Cirque anymore." The line went dead before I could respond. I closed my eyes, remembering the day everything changed. 1 year earlier. A coffee subscription service. My father's voice filled the restaurant group's boardroom. "That's your big proposal." I stood before the family board, pointing to my carefully prepared presentation. "It's more than that, Dad. Little Bird has a loyal customer base. By adding digital ordering, specialty roasts, and home delivery." "Absolutely not," Emma interrupted from her seat beside Dad. As CEO of Foster Restaurant Group, she'd spent years methodically taking control of our family's hospitality empire. "We're not investing company resources in your little hobby shop." "Little Bird makes a profit," I countered. "A good one." "These innovations cold." "Could what?" Emma laughed. "Compete with actual restaurants? Face it, Sarah, you're running a glorified Starbucks in a prime location that could be generating real revenue." Dad nodded slowly. "Emma has a point. That downtown corner property is too valuable for experiments." "It's not an experiment. I built Little Bird from nothing. Our customer satisfaction scores are irrelevant," Emma cut in smoothly. "Which is why I'm proposing a complete restructuring of our coffee division." My blood ran cold as she distributed folders to the board. "What are you talking about?" "ISABELLA'S CAFÉS," Emma announced proudly, "a modern, upscale coffee chain that will revolutionize the industry, starting with rebranding our existing location." "You mean my location," I said quietly. "Little Bird is my creation." "Little Bird operates under Foster Restaurant Group's umbrella," Emma reminded me with a predatory smile. "And as CEO, I'm exercising our contractual right to assume direct management of any subsidiary that doesn't meet our growth targets." "Growth targets you deliberately set impossible high," I protested, turning to Dad. "This is wrong, and you know it." But I could see in his eyes that he'd already sided with Emma. He always did. "The board will vote now," Emma declared. "All in favor of accepting my proposal for ISABELLA'S CAFÉS?" Every hand went up except mine. "Excellent," Emma practically purred. "Sarah, you have two options. Stay on as a regional manager under the new brand, or accept a generous severance package." Generous. Right. The amount was deliberately calculated to be just enough to prevent legal challenges, but not enough to actually start over. "You can't just." "I can, and I have." Emma stood, smoothing her designer suit. "Really, Sarah, this is for the best. You never have the killer instinct for serious business. Running one quirky little coffee shop? That's more your speed." She paused at the door. "Oh, and we'll need you cleared out by Friday. The remodeling cruise starts Monday." I watched them file out, the family board members who'd known me since childhood, none of them meeting my highs. Dad paused briefly. "It's business, Sarah, nothing personal." But it was personal. Emma had been gunning for Little Bird ever since it started gaining attention in the local press. My authentic approach to coffee culture, the community we built, the loyal customers, it drove her crazy that I'd succeeded without following her corporate playbook. Walking through Little Bird one last time that Friday, watching my staff hug and cry as they packed up years of memories, something broke inside me. But something else hardened too. Because what Emma didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I'd seen this coming. For the past year, I'd been carefully documenting everything. Every shipment of expired food Emma had ordered restaurants to serve. Every health code violation she paid inspectors to overlook. Every bit of creative accounting that kept the group's true financial state hidden from the board. And I'd been making other plans too. Plans that would take time to mature. But when they did, I stepped out of Little Bird for the final time, the spare key heavy in my pocket. Emma had won this battle, but she just started a war she wasn't prepared to fight. "Goodbye, Little Bird," I whispered to the empty cafe. "See you soon." 1 year passed like a slow brewing espresso. I watched from a distance as Emma transformed Little Bird into her vision of corporate coffee culture. The warm wooden tables were replaced with cold marble. The local art gave way to mass-produced prints. Even our signature drinks were reimagined with pretentious Italian names and inflated prices. But while Isabella's CAFÉS expanded aggressively, I was busy with my own careful preparations. "Everything's ready," Marcus Wan said, sliding a folder across his desk. As one of the city's top restaurant consultants, he'd been helping me piece together the puzzle of Foster Restaurant Group's finances. "You were right about the numbers. They don't add up." I opened the folder, scanning the documents inside. "How bad is it?" "Bad." He pointed to several highlighted figures. "They're opening new locations using loans secured against projected earnings. But the actual revenue is nowhere near their forecasts. They're burning cash faster than they can make it. And the health code violations?" Marcus grimaced. "Worse than we thought. I have documented evidence of at least 30 serious violations across their restaurants. They've been bribing inspectors to look the other way." I sat back, absorbing the information. Emma's empire was built on sand, and the tide was rising. My phone buzzed. A text from my old assistant at Little Bird, now working at Isabella's corporate office. "Emergency board meeting called for tomorrow." Something about the new health inspector. I smiled. Right on schedule. The next morning, I dressed carefully in a simple but elegant suit. No designer labels, just quiet confidence. The newspaper headlines told the story I'd been orchestrating for months. "Major Reyes DUI anti-Julie cases health QDE. Investigation. Isabella's CAFÉS Giro cage numbers Key West IMD by Anna Hale Weiss TS. Foster Reyes de Ranti Giro UP SOCK plunges on FRAGD ALGH Islands. I didn't go to the board meeting. Instead, I sat in a quiet corner of my new office, watching the chaos unfold through the updates flooding my phone. The new health inspector, one who couldn't be bribed, had conducted surprise inspections of 10 Foster Restaurant Group locations. The results were devastating. Meanwhile, an anonymous tip had led financial regulators to investigate their loan applications. Emma called 4 times. I let each call go to voicemail, imagining her increasing panic as her carefully constructed world began to crumble. Finally, Dad's number flashed on my screen. For the first time in a year, I answered. "Where are you?" he demanded, his voice strained. "We need you at this meeting." "Why?" I asked calmly. "I'm not part of the company anymore, remember?" "Sarah, please." "The situation. It's bad. Emma's not handling it well. We need someone who understands the coffee division." I almost laughed. Now he want my expertise. After letting Emma destroy everything I built. "That was business," he said weakly. This is business too, Dad." I cut him off. "But I'll tell you what, have Emma call Phoenix Hospitality Group. They might be interested in discussing acquisition terms." Phoenix Hospitality, the investment firm that's been buying up distressed restaurant properties. "That's the one." I smiled, though he couldn't see it. "I hear they're very fair in their dealings. Unlike some people." 2 hours later, Emma called again. This time I answered. "Phoenix Hospitality is your company, isn't it?" She didn't bother with pleasantries. "You're behind all of this." "Behind what, Emma?" "The health violations you tried to hide. The fraudulent loan applications. The cooked books." "You vindictive little—" "Careful," I interrupted softly. "You're about to need my help." The silence on the other end was deafening. Finally, she spoke through gritted teeth. "What do you want?" "Meet me at Little Bird. The original one. 1 hour." "That's impossible. We have auditors here, regulators." 1 hour, Emma. Or I start sharing some very interesting documents with those regulators. I hung up, then made one more call. "Marcus, start the next phase." Exactly 1 hour later, I stood in what had once been my beloved cafe. The pretentious renovations couldn't quite hide its bones, the exposed brick walls, the towering windows, the soul of the place still visible beneath Emma's corporate veneer. She'd arrived 5 minutes late, designer heels clicking against the marble floor. But her usual polish was cracking. Her hair was slightly disheveled, her eyes haunted. "All right," she snapped. "What's your game?" I gestured to a table, one of my old wooden ones, recently delivered. "Let's talk about the future of Foster Restaurant Group." "There might not be a future," she admitted, sinking into the chair. "These investigations, the loans coming due, we're hanging by a thread." "I know." I sat across from her. "I also know exactly how many health codes you've violated, how many inspectors you've bribed, and how much money you've hidden from the board." Her face went pale. "How did you?" "You're not the only one who knows how to play the game, Emma. I just play it cleaner." I pulled out a thick folder and laid it on the table. "Phoenix Hospitality is prepared to acquire Foster Restaurant Group. We'll stabilize the finances, resolve the legal issues, and implement proper quality control across all properties." "You want to take over?" She laughed bitterly. "After everything, you want to be my boss?" "No, Emma. I want to save our family's legacy, the right way this time." She stared at me for a long moment, really seeing me perhaps for the first time. "When did you get so ruthless?" "I learned from the best," I smiled. "The difference is, I never lost my integrity in the process." The door chimed as Dad walked in, looking older than I'd ever seen him. "The board's ready to vote," he said quietly. "They're just waiting for terms." I pushed the folder toward Emma. "It's your choice. Sign now, keep some dignity, and stay on in a reduced role. Wait and watch it all burn down." Her hand trembled as she reached for the papers. "I never thought, never imagined you'd. Never imagined I had the killer instinct for serious business," I finished for her. Funny how things work out. 6 months can change everything. The transformation of Foster Restaurant Group under Phoenix Hospitality's leadership proved that daily. I stood in Little Bird's doorway, watching the morning crowd fill the restored space. The marble was gone, replaced by the warm woods and local art I'd always loved. The overpriced pastries had given way to fresh goods from local bakers. Most importantly, the soul of the place had returned. "The numbers from last quarter are in," Marcus said, appearing at my side. "Little Bird's revenue is up 200% since the restoration. The authentic approach is working across all locations. And the health inspections, perfect scores across the board," he smiled. "Amazing what happens when you actually follow the rules." I noticed Emma before she saw me, standing uncertainly by the counter. Gone were the designer suits and perfect makeup. Today she wore simple business casual, her hair pulled back naturally. "The morning rush looks good," she said as I approached. Since the takeover, she'd been working as our quality control manager, a position that required her to actually visit restaurants and interact with staff. To my surprise, she was good at it. "Better than your projections for Isabella's ever were." I couldn't resist adding. She flinched slightly. "I deserve that. I deserve worse, actually." She paused, watching a barista carefully craft a latte. "You know what I realized? I never once tasted the coffee at Isabella's. Not really. I was too busy planning expansions and manipulating numbers. And now? Now I know every blend we serve. I know our baristas' names. I understand why people love Little Birds so much." She turned to face me. "I understand what I destroyed." Before I could respond, Dad walked in. Like Emma, the past 6 months had changed him. Retirement suited him. He looked younger, more relaxed. "My two brilliant daughters," he beamed, hugging us both. "I just came from a breakfast meeting with the Restaurant Association. They're talking about Little Bird's revival as a model for sustainable growth in the industry." "Sarah's model," Emma corrected quietly. "I just wish I'd seen it sooner." I studied my sister, seeing real regret in her eyes. "You know," I said slowly, "we're planning to launch that coffee subscription service I proposed last year. The one you shot down. We could use someone who understands both the corporate and quality sides to run it." Hope flickered across her face. "You trust me with that?" "After everything." "Trust but verify," I smiled. "You'll report directly to Marcus, and there will be strict oversight. But yes, I think you've learned some valuable lessons." Dad cleared his throat. "Speaking of lessons, the family cabin needs some work. I thought maybe this weekend we could all, like when we were kids." Emma asked softly, We used to spend weekends there before the restaurant business consumed everything. I looked around Little Bird at the happy customers, the dedicated staff, the warmth and authenticity we'd restored. Sometimes fixing a business meant fixing a family too. "I'd like that," I said. Later that evening, after the last customers had left, I sat at my favorite table by the window. Emma joined me, placing 2 cups of our signature blend between us. "I've been meaning to ask," she said. "How did you do it?" Bill Phoenix hospitality right under our noses. I took a sip of coffee, savoring the perfect blend. While you were focused on expansion at any cost, I was building relationships, connecting with other independent restaurant owners, learning about their challenges. When foster groups started taking over and ruining beloved local spots, they were happy to invest in a company dedicated to preserving authentic dining experiences. And the evidence against us. People talk when they're angry. Your shortcuts, the health violations, all I had to do was listen and document. She nodded slowly. You could have destroyed us completely, had us all arrested. I could have, I agreed. But that wasn't the point. The point was to save what mattered, our family's legacy of bringing people together through food and drink, just not the way you were doing it. I understand that now. She touched her cup thoughtfully. The subscription service, I have some ideas, ways to connect with customers personally, not just chase numbers. That's exactly what we need. I smiled. Welcome back to Little Bird, Emma. The next morning, I arrived early to find Emma already there, learning the espresso machine from our head barista. Dad sat nearby, actually talking with customers instead of checking stock prices. Marcus appeared with the latest reports, but I waved them away. Later, I said, "Right now, I need to make some coffee." Behind the counter, working alongside my staff, I felt the familiar peace that had first drawn me to this business. The morning sun streamed through the windows, catching the steam from the espresso machine like a halo. Little Bird was soaring again, higher than ever, and this time it had lifted my whole family with it. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying what others built, but showing them a better way to build. Sometimes healing a business means healing hearts. And sometimes the most powerful move in business isn't a hostile takeover. It's offering someone who hurt you a chance to do better. As I crafted the day's first latte, drawing a perfect heart in the foam, I smiled. Success, like the perfect cup of coffee, is all about balance.